Let me know when you're ready. You ready? Okay. Welcome everybody to the University of Florida and the Loss Prevention Research Council's brand new innovation lab. You can see we're working behind us to mock up hard good and soft good retailing locations to do some of the preliminary research that we, as you all probably know, do out in the field in operating stores and distribution centers, parking lots as well. And so what we're doing, and this was suggested by our board of advisors at the LPRC, who are comprised of approximately 14 leading vice presidents of loss prevention or asset protection, is to put on a summer research lecture or webinar series and kind of highlight some of the things that we're up to. And just a quick premise, as you all probably know, the University of Florida's research team has been around about 12 years, but the actual Loss Prevention Research Council was founded by 10 major retailers 14 years ago. And so today we are working with 37 retail chains to help them better understand their crime and loss dynamics and work on better and better solutions, and then finally through innovation, and then finally through rigorous field experimentation and other methods trying to evaluate how well it's working. And so as part of the effort, we are continually talking to the, no pun intended, target audience of what we're trying to do. And what we try and do basically at the LPRC and at UF are really understand behavior and how to help shape behavior in places and spaces. In other words, in parking lots or in the office, DC, or store environments, for example. And so by talking to the target audience, in other words, those that are making the decisions to offend or whatever in those places, we can understand the dynamics. By also further exposing active or recent offenders to what different solution sets that we come up with that are very, very targeted, we hope to continue to dial the effectiveness and the cost effectiveness of what retailers do and get better and better. So today, in our second of our three webinar lecture series, we're going to talk to some recent or active offenders in the North Central Florida area, in this case, to learn a little bit about what they notice and how they perceive things and how they respond and on and on. And I've got two colleagues here, both Kyle Grattini and as well as Mike Giblin from the LPRC research team, and they will be posing questions primarily headed by, in this case, the co-principal investigator of this project, Kyle Grattini, and work with these guys that will be talking with you all have varying levels of experience and expertise and things like that. So we hope that you all get something out of this. We're looking forward to having some involvement by you. You're more than welcome when Kyle cues you to interact. This series will also be on video and be available particularly for LPRC members initially, but then everybody later. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kyle, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Reed. And I'd like to encourage anyone who would like to participate in this chat to enter in your comments in the chat window of this meeting. So if you have any questions that you would like me to ask, I have a set of 10 questions or so here that I'll be asking our guests. And if you have any additional questions you would like to ask, like I said, list it in the chat bar and I'll ask them myself. So I guess without any further ado, we'll start working through our questions here. I want to thank you all again for participating today. Your time is very much appreciated. And I've interviewed all of you before, so a pretty casual relationship here. So I guess I'll hop right into it. So when you commit an act of retail theft or when you take something, do you like to work alone or with other people? And I'll just start from you.
Okay. I do other people. I mean, by myself. I'm paranoid.
What about having other people there makes you paranoid?
That's more people to tell on you.
Okay.
Me, it's been a little bit of both. When you have other people, it's somewhat of more of a distraction to employees and store clerks or whatever. And when you're by yourself, you look a little more suspicious, should I say. And so when you're with a crowd, and especially with a crowd of somebody who's buying something rather than just walking in and you're stealing something, then it looks a little better, So.
So when you go in with people, what is your relationship to them? Are they pals, family?
Yeah, just acquaintances mostly. Some possible friends, but mostly just acquaintances.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say about the same. It really depends on the store. If it's a larger store, you don't really need to. The employees are minding their own business, doing their own thing, so you can just go in there and mind your own business, and they don't even pay you any attention. But typically not. But if I do, it's usually a trusted friend, someone that can be there and maybe like cause a distraction, let me get out of the way or something like that,
Okay. And if you go in a group, do you have a different target product than you would if you go in there alone? Just kind of as the moment hits you, you're with a pal. You go in there.
Well, I see it if you go in there with more than one person, you're going to target some much larger ticketed items, because if you're working together with somebody, then you're obviously going to split the benefits from, whatever it is you're going in there to take or whatever you're getting. So you're going to want to, whether you're selling it, or whatever you're doing with it, you're going to want it to be worth a little bit more money instead of, what you would typically go take if you were by yourself.
Well, people that go in a group are going in to get big items. They aren't going in to steal some Tylenol for their kids or some bread or a shirt, or, they're going in for something to make money off of.
Okay. Great. Do you have a specific time of day or level of business where you're more likely to attempt a theft?
When it's very busy.
And what about a very busy store is more attractive to you?
Because nobody's paying attention. There's too many people to watch. And most stores don't have enough employees to really watch as many people as come in, like right after work. That 5 to 7 o'clock time when Walmart's packed or wherever you go. It's right after work, everybody's there. You could very easily just walk out with what you want and nobody would ever know. Nobody pays attention to the things that beep. It doesn't matter what store you go to. Nobody stops you when something beeps.
And if anybody says anything, if there's even a cashier or an employee near, they're usually just like, go ahead, and like she was saying, when it's busy, say they, like Walmart, for instance, has one employee at the door checking receipts or for large, quantities of stuff or something like that. They're not going to be able to check 50 people or 20 people that's all walking out at the same time, that one employee. So, I think 15 of those people walked by without even being said anything to or looked at in a second glance,
Okay, so you also enjoy the busier time just because?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, it depends on what I'm taking, but large items definitely when it's busy because they don't really, do extensive checks. But if it's just personal items, I'll go in there in the middle of the night.
Okay. And why the personal items during?
Just because you can take your backpack and put it on a shelf in the corner of the store, fill your card up, go back there, fill your backpack up, and just walk out. No one ever sees you.
So is being seen by other customers a concern at all, or is it just
no? They don't say nothing. Some, but usually not.
I think it's a concern when I'm actually putting the stuff in my pockets or in a bag or whatever. I would look at it as a concern because you never know if those customers are undercover employees or, shopper, whatever you call those people that walk around the store and, look for people stealing. So I try to, make sure, nobody sees me if I'm, stealing something that I could fit in my pocket or put in a backpack or something like that.
It's definitely a concern to me because I'm a tattletale now. And I'm going to tattle on you, so I figure somebody's going to tattle on me if I do it. I would definitely tell if I saw somebody stealing these days. And I would expect that somebody would tell on me if I was stealing,
Touching back on the undercover employee, Do you have times where you feel like you can identify an undercover employee?
Most definitely. There's been several times. I
We
mean,
were recently in Walmart
Yeah.
and pointed them out.
because they're very obvious to the extent where they're not blending in very well at all. I mean, they're walking around, they're watching people, they're not looking at shelves or putting stuff in a buggy. They're usually walking around acting like they're talking on the phone but staring at you while you're walking down this aisle, or me while I'm walking down that aisle. I mean,
You being nicely dressed, following people around without a buggy, without a basket, with nothing in it, even if you have one, and you've been walking around the store for 30 or 45 minutes is a dead giveaway that you're loss prevention.
You feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I can usually spot them out. All the Walmarts in town, I actually know some of those guys that work in the loss prevention. But yeah, they're typically, sore thumbs and stick out.
Is there any better way that they can go about blending in?
There's a video on YouTube. There's several of them called The People of Walmart. Have them watch it. It'll teach them to blend in.
I mean, necessarily just, look like you're actually shopping.
Right.
Don't make it so obvious that you're watching every customer and every person that walks by and trying to see who's stealing and who's not. I mean, if you're just actually shopping is when you're going to more than likely catch the most people. If you're just actually, going down a list, you got, picking stuff up throughout the store, you're going to probably catch more people like that than you are just walking around the store with nothing.
Because nobody's going to pay attention to the person with a list and a buggy.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, they're going to think, oh, that's just another shopper, picking up some stuff at Walmart, I mean, or Publix or wherever it is, I mean, it's more typical that somebody's going to shove something in their pockets or their backpack in front of the person with a list and a buggy full of groceries than it is somebody walking around with a drink in their hand or a cell phone,
Absolutely. All right. Moving on. So when you take items, what items do you normally take, and then what do you do with the items once you have them?
I tend to take personal items, stuff that we need for the house, stuff that the kids need. I used to take more, but it's for personal use. It's things that we need, that we have to have. I don't go take big screen TVs. I'm not a big ticket person.
So when you take items for personal use, do you go for anything in particular? Like, do you have a specific type of item that you want for personal use, or is it kind of something more that...
It's usually spur of the moment, like, okay, my child's out of Tylenol tonight. We've got to get some Tylenol, or we don't have this or we don't have that, and there's no money to get it. So you go to the store with a diaper bag, and you just drop it in the buggy, and nobody pays attention to the diaper bag or the big purse or whatever's sitting in the bottom of your buggy.
Okay. So what items do you typically go for?
Typically, I would go for something that I could either return for a gift card to try to sell, or something that I could sell on the streets to get money out of, because I'm about the money. I mean, it's all about how much money I can make off of it, whatever it is, So it'd be like generators, big screen TVs, pressure washers. I mean, the bigger items, whatever, I could possibly put in a buggy and push out the door without, having a second glance turned my way or whatever.
When you took these items, did you try to sell them all to the same fence, or
no? When a lot of people, you got something that's brand new in the store, it costs $700, and you're telling a few different people, you're selling it a brand new one for $300, still in the box or whatever. It's going to sell pretty quick. I mean, so.
What would you say the most high value item or items that you got in one load would be?
Probably about $700.
Okay. Was that generator, a big TV?
Yeah, it was TV or generator. Both of those cost in between $500 and $700 for the larger ones. So.
So what items do you typically go for?
Yeah, now it's typically personal stuff, but I'm taking some big stuff, working with some teams, and gotten some big stuff.
Could you elaborate on what qualifies as big stuff?
I think we went in there on a Black Friday one time and came out with like 3 laptops and 2 TVs. Just walked right out.
Nobody.
Yeah, just
They
put
were
it
too
in.
busy, probably.
Well, I mean, we all walked out. We didn't walk out with it together. We all walked out differently, separately, and had our own stuff. But no one ever said anything.
Did you take those for resale, personal use?
Yeah, resale, and I think one of the guys kept his laptop or whatever. But
So when you go to resale, do you have a fence? Do you go to Craigslist? Do you have friends that are looking for
yeah,
cars?
sometimes you would do Craigslist. They did just open up a new little thing on Facebook called Swip Swap. That one's pretty good. It's just like everybody who's local, you just post stuff for sale on there.
Interesting. So we're going to go through some different methods that how you guys get these items out. Remember you mentioning under the buggy and diaper bags.
Yeah.
Do you use any other methods while trying to get an item out? Throw them underneath the shirt?
Put them in the safe.
What was it?
We have one question.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll get down to that in a little bit. Have you used any tools other than the bag?
No, I'm really scared about it. I didn't used to be. I was an addict, and when I was using, I wasn't afraid to go in and just take whatever and just walk out. Now I'm really afraid, and I never used tools. If it beeped, I didn't need it. Obviously, there was something else to get.
Okay. How about you?
Typically, like a pair of snips or something like that, possibly would be used. I mean, smaller items, that you could put in a backpack or your pants or your pocket or something like that. I mean, yeah, most of the time they're going to have a security thing on them, and anything that costs any amount of money usually does, or that's of high theft, and most of the time it has to cost something, a little bit of money to be, a high valued item, so, I mean, most of those things nowadays, though, they're getting better on, as far as the security goes with them, the cameras and showing you on the camera, showing other people on the cameras watching you and stuff like that. I mean, knowing that there's somebody watching those cameras definitely, would deter a lot of people from stealing, the fact that most people knows that nobody usually watches those cameras, and they're usually not even on. They're just there for show most of the time is a big reason why a lot of theft happens.
So you think making it seem more credible that the cameras that are there being, one, on, and two, active
with somebody
like the ones
monitoring.
you'll put at Walmart where you can actually see the person viewing the
Sitting
monitors.
there looking at the
Yeah,
monitor.
I think that will make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Okay. And what were some of your better methods to?
I mean, yeah, if it's got something on there that needs to be cut, I'll go in. I usually have something I can cut with in my pocket, but I don't know. I just act like I'm minding my own business. If there's a camera, even if it's showing, like I said to you at Walmart that time, if someone's watching you through the camera, I think that it's just going to be kind of redundant. They're going to get a lot of little, jokesters, flicking them off or flashing them, something stupid, and they're just might not get the result they think they're going to get out of that. Because you can just act like you're minding your own business for 1 second, and then once you're out of the view of that camera, it's right in your pocket and you're gone.
Cool. So how do you feel about purchasing items while taking items? Is that something that you like to do?
Always do.
Why is that?
I feel less conspicuous. I feel like I didn't just go to the store just to steal something, that I'm there for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to be looked at crazy if I walk out of here with nothing. You know, I always.
Okay.
Most definitely, you should buy something when you're going in the store to steal something, regardless of whether it's a pack of bubble gum or a little bag of chips or something like that. You should definitely walk out of the store with something, because you're more apt to get stopped if you just walk out of the store, you know, and don't have anything, especially if you look like you
Or if you
possibly
beat.
just stole something, or you beat. You're most definitely going to get stopped if you beat, you know, I mean, and you don't have a bag in your hand or something that you just bought, you know. Like I was saying, though, earlier, if you have a bag or something like that in your hand and you beep, you know, you're more apt to get told to just go ahead, you know, than you are if you don't have anything in your hand.
For me, it's, you know, it's the size of what I just took and the size of the store. If it's a smaller store, you know, yeah, I'm going to buy something. If it's a larger store, they probably didn't even see me or weren't even paying attention to me, so I won't, you know. But if I take something small, yeah, if I can get away with walking through the register and they can't tell, then yeah, I'll probably buy something. But if it's bigger, then no. It's going to be loud.
We started touching on this a little bit before, but we're going to go into a deeper dive here. So, mentioned all the different things that you see around the store to prevent people from trying to steal things. And I noticed that you mentioned the EPVM, the monitor that shows what's going on. Are there any other asset protection measures that you've noticed that you witness and be like, I'm not going to be going anywhere near that?
When we went to Lowe's, and they have the little thing that if you pull too many of the breakers out, it sends off a siren. I thought that was really awesome. Like, you just pull out so many and this thing starts sounding and you've got an alarm going off, which means people are going to be coming. That would be a really big deterrent for me if I knew that, okay, if I pull off too many items out of this thing, there's going to be somebody coming here, you know.
Do you have a...
Oh, I was saying, like, well, aren't those, if you take more than 3 at a time without it being, like, approved, then it'll go off?
Yeah.
And there's, like, a 10-minute, like, I don't know, 5 or 10-minute window for it to reset?
Yeah. So some of the products out there, if you take X number in a certain amount of seconds, it'll summon over.
Yeah, I did that at Lowe's, too.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just refreshing.
Okay. Does anything particularly deter you? Or?
Yeah, the lock cases for the more valuable items and stuff like that. The harder to the rings, you know, things that, you know, where you have to pull them off and spin them around, where you can only pull one off at a time.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, that most definitely. If it's just going to take me 20 minutes, if I want to take 5 of these things to get 5 of them off of there, that most definitely would, you know, deter me somewhat. I would probably think about getting 5 of something else, you know, that was easier to just pull off the shelf or something like that.
Would you say you would still try to get the item, but maybe take less of them?
Or something different.
Yeah, or something different. Yeah, it all depends on whether I need that item, you know, for personal use or if I'm taking something to sell. That would depend on the situation, of course.
Okay.
What's out there right now? Not really, other than someone standing there guarding it, you know, personally the whole time, then no. I mean, I'll just take less of it and go back, you know, keep going back in and back out, taking the little bit at a time. But usually if you're minding your own business and you have to take 5 off of it or 10 off of it, you know, just do it, act like you're minding your own business and leave.
Okay. So another kind of asset protection measure is the associate in the area. And we always look for, you know, what impact does the associate have on somebody's decision to take something? Mm-hmm. So if you have a friendly, engaged associate in the area, how would you react if you were trying to get
I'm not stealing anything if somebody speaks to me. I feel like if somebody acknowledges your presence and, hi, I'm welcome to Walmart. You know, enjoy your shopping experience or whatever. They've looked at your face. They've made eye contact with you. They could pick you out of a lineup. I feel like that's a huge deterrent for me. I feel like at that point it's actually a cognitive decision that you're making. It's no longer this just impulsive thing that you do. You're actually having to make a decision at that point. This person's looked at me. This person's seen me. Do I continue doing what I'm doing, or do I stop?
Can you recall a time where an actively engaged associate changed your mind from?
The Walmart in Panama City, where I'm from, I would not, even in the midst of my addictions, touch anything there because it never failed. When I went, there was this little old man standing at the front, and he was just this little old thing with a cane and feeble looking. But when you walked in, it was, "Hey, I'm so-and-so. Welcome to Walmart. I hope you enjoy your experience. I hope you have a great day." And I mean, every time he made you know that he had seen you, and he acknowledged you, and so it felt like, and because he was so friendly about it, it felt like he would be able to recognize you,
Okay. I thought you'd say he'd be disappointed in you.
Well, that too. Like, I mean, he was like the dad of Walmart. He really was. Everybody recognized him and knew him and spoke to him, and I think he was a big deterrent. And that Walmart in that side of town was actually the worst side of town, but the one on the beach had more retail theft than that Walmart.
Interesting. How do you feel about a friendly and engaged associate?
Well, if I go in an area where I'm going to be stealing something and there's an associate that's sitting there stocking the shelves and not really paying attention to her area, whether she speaks to me or he speaks to me or not, it's not going to make a difference if he's over here 3 hours over here working and I'm over here 3 hours over taking something and putting it in my pocket or a backpack or whatever. It's not going to make a difference to me because, I mean, now if he's walking the area, monitoring the whole area, and instead of, working and his mind isn't on his job that he's got to complete, you know what I'm saying, get all these stuff put on the shelves or whatever, and his mind's more set on, hey, I needed to monitor my area, I'm going to be, in charge of, or, held responsible if somebody steals something from this area, which I think, there should be somewhat responsibility to employees, for their area. I mean, if there's no responsibility to employees for their area, then they're not going to care about their area. I mean, not saying that they should get docked and pay or anything like that, but there should be some kind of repercussions.
There should be some training.
For the amount of theft that comes out of their area, I mean, whether it be, you get a day taken out, where you have to go to a training class or something like that, I mean, there should be something, to hold the employee responsible because it'll make them want to stop the theft more. At this point, there's nothing in place to make them want to stop the theft more. They're going to come there and their job is to sell the stuff if people are going to buy it and stock the shelves. I mean, they're not getting paid or anything like that to stop this guy from stealing or her from stealing or me from stealing. I mean, so they could care less about it,
So maybe some loss prevention incentives might be?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay. Have you ever had an interaction with? Have you ever had an interaction with an employee that kept you away from trying to steal an item?
Most definitely. There was a guy in Walmart, and he not only was he stocking his shelves, but he was walking back and forth every 5 minutes, looking up and down his aisles, straightening up his stuff on his aisles in his area. I mean, it was like, he was really, trying to maintain his area. So it would seem like that he would notice, if somebody was in his area trying to steal something, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that definitely deterred me.
No, I don't really have one other than being like caught in the act. I mean, I haven't been caught in the act, but if someone's in the aisle, I mean, I might make my other rounds and then go back to that stop. But usually I got my backpack in the corner of the store and I'm walking around with a shopping cart, minding my own business, and I'm in and out pretty quick. So no, I just just act like I'm.
Is there anything that they could do?
I mean, other than tackling me or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's like they need to care more in the stores. The people that run the stores need to either pay them more. But that's a different question. But I mean, more pay would definitely be a great incentive, because I don't know about me, or definitely not me. When I worked for Walmart, they're like, oh, you can have pay and stock options. Like, I don't want stock options from Walmart. You know, I want more pay.
Okay.
Most definitely. I mean, if there's a raise incentive, for the least amount of loss prevention that comes from your area. I mean, least amount of theft that comes from your area. If there's a raise incentive every 6 months, if you have less than this stolen out of your area, I think that would definitely make people try to keep the theft down from their areas more. I mean,
I agree with that.
Do you think that it's more a kind of a lack of caring by the associates? Or do you think that there's also an intimidation factor? This person's stealing this.
I think it's more about I don't care. I don't get paid enough to deal with this. I don't. What am I going to get out of it? Why is it worth my time? Why should I get involved? I'm here just to do my job. Because that's really the attitude you get with most store employees.
I've actually had employees say exactly that. So.
Yeah. We actually have a friend that works for Walmart right now that basically said that about somebody that walked through her line recently. And she was like, why should I care? They walked out with $30 or $40 worth of stuff. I don't care. It's not my stuff. I don't get paid enough to deal with that.
It trickles down from the manager. If the manager isn't, on point, then his employees aren't going to be looking for those types of things. It's going to be, I need to get stuff done and get out of here because I hate my job,
Yeah.
All right. So we're getting down to the bottom of our list of questions here. If any of our people who are also on the webinar would like to have any additional questions asked, please start typing them into the chat area or at the bottom of the screen here. I think we've gotten a few. So we've got 2 questions, so keep them coming. The next thing we're going to cover is return fraud. So basically you've obtained an item either by stealing it, finding it, and returning it to a store or another store in an effort to get store credit or cash. So have you done anything like that before?
Yes, I have returned items that I found or bought very cheaply at a yard sale, and yeah, that was one of my favorites. And Walmart will give you money back on anything. I think the biggest problem is because of the way the return policies are worded from corporate, right? They don't have a whole lot of choice in the return, because if you call corporate, then they get in trouble. And whether you have the receipt or not, some revising of return policies could probably help with that, because some stores will return items that have been discontinued for years. Walmart being one of them. I returned a cordless phone set that I bought at a yard sale that was 5 or 6 years discontinued, and they still returned it to me. Yeah, told me they couldn't even find it in their computer as being sold anymore, and the last price they had was from years ago, but they still returned it. Yeah.
That's interesting. So if you've done this on multiple occasions, what's your time frame between obtaining an item and trying to return it?
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah, usually within the day or 2.
And why? Any particular reason with the quick turnaround? Just trying to get cash?
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned that possibly changing the wording of the return policy could help prevent return fraud. Do you have any other suggestions on how to prevent fraudulent returns?
Making it a requirement to have an ID every time.
Okay.
Because although it's said that it's a requirement, it's not followed through on. And if you return a certain amount of items without a receipt, it needs to be held to that you can only return this amount of items. That's Walmart, you're only supposed to be able to return 3 items in a year without a receipt. You can return from here till kingdom come. And they're never going to ask for your ID, and most of the time they aren't going to ask for a receipt. They're just going to return it. Publix is one of those too. They'll return anything.
Also, I think if they kept a better inventory of their stock, like on the barcodes and the scans, that it would be a lot harder for people to just return anything to them. I mean, you could buy something at Publix and go return it to Walmart, but if they had, an inventory that was logged into their database in their computer frame, that worked alongside their registers, when you took that up to the register to return it wouldn't be able to be returned because it would show that it was never bought from any Walmart store or, sold at any Walmart store, because the barcode's different for every store. I mean, it's not.
The problem is it does that, but they don't care. They'll still return it if they stock it.
Yeah.
They'll still return it even if it's not from their store, as long as they stock the product.
So I take it you've done return fraud as well?
Yes.
What was your time frame between obtaining items and returning them?
Probably within an hour or so. Most of the time, somebody else would either take it or I would take it and have somebody else return it. I mean, you don't want to take something back in the same store you just left out of, and try to return it. I mean, yeah. Well, why not just walk from the aisle up to the front desk if that's the case?
Walk right to the LP office.
Yeah, exactly.
You ever committed a return fraud?
I have. I usually try to do it within the same day, just different stores.
Okay. So you want to take a somewhat universal product like
Oh, no, I don't take from a different store. I don't do different stores. Like I'm going to take from a Walmart and go to a different Walmart, or a Publix and go to a different Publix, or CVS,
Okay.
so on.
Were you required to show ID with your transaction?
Typically, yes, but even still, it doesn't matter.
That doesn't deter you at all?
No.
Would a sign saying that all identification is kept in a database affect you at all?
Yes, probably that would be my solution for it. I work at a bookstore, a college bookstore, and what we do to prevent people from coming in and selling other people's books, like stealing other students' books and selling them back for money, is we have every receipt in our database has all your information in it, your driver's license number, your name, your address, your telephone number, your email, and it's a personalized receipt and it's saved forever, and you can always look up what you bought on what certain day, when, where, all that stuff. And if that was, it's pretty hard to do that worldwide, but if that was the case, I think it would make it a lot, you could always look up, oh, did this person really buy this,
All right, I think we're going to go to some questions from the group here. So we heard from Chuck here, who asks, what are the stores that you feel are the easiest to hit, and which ones do you find are the most challenging to hit?
Easiest, Walmart, top of the list.
They've taken a beating today.
Right. They do every day for loss prevention, don't they? Big Lots follows right behind them.
And what about those two stores makes them an easier
I
target?
think it's the lack of care from the employees. Nobody pays attention to you. They're busy. As a general rule, you got a lot of people running around, kids running around, huge distraction. And then you just got a bunch of employees that don't care. And hardest for me would be CVS and Publix. I wouldn't touch them. People are there very attentive, and they're all over the place. They're paying attention to what goes on. It seems like they must be better to work for, right? People want to keep their jobs. They want to be there. They want their job to be secure, and they're paying attention to what's going on. They're being helpful and attentive.
Same for you. Easy.
Yeah, Walmart and probably Big Lots. Yeah, it would be the two easiest for me as well. Excuse me. I want to say the hardest would probably be Probably Walgreens and CVS instead of Publix. I mean, Publix is pretty hard. It's up there with the top, 3 or 4. As far because, and the only reason I say that is because they are better companies to work for. Walgreens, CVS, and Publix. They care more about their employees. They're more understanding. They give their employees more incentives to work to want to keep their jobs. I mean, benefits, packages, and stocks and everything. They give them a lot more options, to what they can earn and gain from this job other than having to come to work and work all day. And Walmart, and the reason I say they're the hardest is because they have so many people in there and they're so busy all the time. The people that come to work there are constantly stocking the shelves, ringing the cash registers. They're busy, 24/7. If you're hired to stock a shelf and you're working in Walmart, you're probably not getting very good benefits. You're probably not, making a whole bunch of money, but you're really working hard, to keep these shelves stocked and for the seasons to rearrange them for the seasons and everything. And you don't feel like you're being, I'm sure they don't feel like they're being paid enough to worry about, like we were saying, loss prevention or theft. I mean, they're like,
the employee to customer ratio is greater at some of these stores like Publix and CVS. You have more employees working the floor. You don't just have 3 cashiers open and 5 or 6 people stocking shelves and nobody else doing anything. You've got people on 2 or 3 aisles, and every 3rd aisle there's somebody there, and there's somebody asking if you need help, and they have enough employees working each shift. That makes a big difference.
and the fact that their stores are smaller, CVS and Walgreens, and they have those mirrors in the back to where the employee can be over here on this aisle stocking the shelf and just look back at that mirror and see you sticking something in your pocket 3 aisles over. It's a big thing when you got 2 and 3 employees on the floor always working, rearranging stuff or setting stuff up for the next day or whatever. It makes, a big difference. I'm sure they still have quite a bit of loss prevention as well, but.
Do you think those angled mirrors would be helpful in a larger setting like a Walmart?
The only way they would be helpful in a larger setting like a Walmart is for the employees to actually pay attention to them.
See a recurring theme here.
Yeah.
Same to you. Easiest target, hardest target?
I would say, Walmart as well. Particular ones, I like to go in there and scope it out first. It really depends on the layout of the store. Like, I don't really have a store that I'm not going to do something in. It just depends on the layout. If there's one door in, one door out, usually it's not like that, but like, how Lowe's is set up where you can only go in or inside the inside door, and then you have to walk around and go through the cash register zone just to get out of the store. So that one, actually Lowe's is probably one of my, what I would say would be like on the exit would be the most iffy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it depends on the layout of the store, because a lot of the times that other door is pretty far away from, where all the action's happening.
I agree that separate entrance and exit makes a big difference. If you have to walk around through the store, through the cashiers to get to an exit, it would make a big difference for me. I'd feel very conspicuous.
Okay. All right, we got another question here.
Scroll down on it. I think we missed that middle one. Have you ever worked with an employee?
Mm-hmm. We'll go ahead and cover this first. This one came in first.
So we chatted about this a little bit before, but just to recap, what is one thing that the store associate can do to deter you from trying to take an item? Be friendly, be active.
Be friendly, talk to me, engage me.
Any choice of wording for me?
I think it's just all about that engagement, that interpersonal contact,
Okay. Have any of you ever worked with a store employee to steal that you did not know before, and If so, how could you identify them as a potential accomplice? So have you ever worked with anyone within the store?
No.
Too risky or
I just don't do other people.
You know, the less people that know, the better.
okay.
Most definitely the chances of them stabbing you in the back and, you know, actually getting you busted are much greater than the benefits you would have from working with them, I would think.
Have you ever worked with somebody who was working at the store to try and take an item?
Oh. Okay, so what if you were buy one, get one stuff that's not supposed to be buy one, get one? That would be the same, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay, and you knew the person they were just giving that to you? You didn't have anything prearranged?
No, I just got up there and I was like, I have a whole bunch of buy one, get one ad matches. And she was like, oh my God, you're here with the coupons, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. And so she just never even looked at my ads, right? She was like, is everything buy one, get one? So I was just like, yeah.
Why not?
So she rang up everything buy one, get one, you know.
Have either of you? No?
No. I will say this about Walmart. You can take an item or you can take a price tag from an item anywhere in the store, take it and put it where the item is that you want. Take that item, they'll ring it up, it'll ring as something, and be like, oh no, this was this on the shelf, you know, go check. They'll go check. They have to change it.
Interesting.
I've done it several times.
Patricia asked, do you visit specialty stores? I think we might need a little bit more of elaboration on
Like
that.
a pool store or a shoe store or something like that.
There we go.
A specialty store would be a little harder, I would think. I wouldn't go in a shoe store and try to steal a pair of shoes. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 people working in there. They're very small. They're always, can we help you with this? What size do you need? You know, or whatever. Or a cell phone store, for instance. I'm not going to go in a cell phone store and try to steal a cell phone because they got 5 people working in the cell phone store and one of them is going to help you. You know, one of them is going to, you know, get you everything you need. You're not going to have an opportunity. And besides that, everything pretty much in a specialty store, like a shoe store or a cell phone store, is either going to be in a lock case or there's only going to be one shoe in the box and somebody's going to have to go to the back to get you the other one. So it's going to be, you know, much, much more difficult for you to try to steal something from one of those places.
Okay.
It's like that. If I needed something in there, you know, I'd do some research on it first, but you know, and how to do it better. You know, not go in there with no plan. But you know, typically you can get everything you need from those big stores. So
Okay.
That's, oh, here's one.
Have you ever concealed items off of the sales floor? So I believe that means...
like right then and there, put it under your shirt or something.
Yeah, I think they just right from the sales floor, or also have you taken things not on the sales floor, so maybe take them into a bathroom, changing room, back room area.
Oh yeah.
I always am right on the sales floor when I've taken them.
I think an alternative thing they might mean is have you gone into the back room of the store?
Oh, no. There's typically always people back there.
Okay. But you've used bathrooms, changing rooms before?
Depends on the item. If it has to be something that maybe has to be wrapped in tinfoil, or if it's one of those keepers and you have to have a hammer and smash it, you know, you're going to go get a towel and wrap it up in the towel and then smash it, or, you know, so then you need to get out of sight.
Okay.
I'm more opportunistic. If I can't take it right then, I'm not going to take it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've used a changing room or a restroom before. If it's something like you were saying that has a beeper or something like that you need to take out of the package or something like that, you're going to want to be concealed when you're doing it so nobody can see you. You're going to go to a changing room or a bathroom, wherever it's available.
I think that's possibly it. No? This one's a little directed. What are your feelings on stealing something from an office supply store like Office Depot or Office Max?
I would do it if I needed to.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't really go into those stores very often. I'm not comfortable. I wouldn't be comfortable stealing from them because I'm in there so frequently that I don't know them well, you know?
I wouldn't because the fact that the Office Depots that I've been in have one way in, one way out. It's one door, you know, and the register's right next to the door, so you would have to walk by them in and out, you know, and you can go by them and I mean, buy anything, but I mean, if they've seen you over somewhere in the back corner or another employee's seen you somewhere and think you possibly stole something, they're more than likely going to try to stop you when you're going out of the store with it.
And we were actually in an office supply store recently. When we walked in, we were greeted. We made it 3 or 4 aisles up, and we were greeted again. We made it to the back, and somebody asked us if we needed any help. I needed a trifold board, and the people there were so friendly and helpful. There had been no way I would have taken anything out of there. You know?
How do you feel about hitting the same store repeatedly? Do you guys feel comfortable if you have a specific place that you're pretty sure you can get things, you try to get from them repeatedly, or did you try to go for a different branch of a similar store?
You gotta space it out because if you take it all, I know Walmart's system is it purchases more items when items are sold. So if they don't run through the register, that's how they figure out that it's been stolen. So it usually takes, I don't know what the cycle is on it for them to check and see, you know, their inventory. But it would usually be, you got to space it out a little bit.
Okay. I tend to do personal care items or food, so I'm going to go where I know I can get it.
I wouldn't continuously hit the same store, maybe, you know, 2 or 3 times at the same store, but that would be, you know, pretty much the end of it because, like you were saying, there's either going to run out of stock of what you want, you know what I'm saying, or what you're taking from there, or somebody's going to catch on eventually. You know, you can only get away with something at the same place for a certain amount of time.
Well, it really depends on what you're taking. If you're taking the big ticket items, then yeah, that's going to be caught on to. But if you're going in and you're getting some Tylenol and
there's
some
something that
wipes,
somebody else is buying, you know, enough quantity of for them to keep ordering it. Yeah, that would be a different story.
It's
you
not
know?
as noticeable, and you can hit the same store repeatedly.
Right.
I think we're getting towards the tail end of our presentation here, and I think we got all the questions in from the crowd. So I'd like to thank everyone again here for sharing their insights and having hopefully actually a pretty good time with us today. Thank you for all the people that hopped on to this presentation. I hope it was informative and you really are getting a lot out of these webinars. As Reed mentioned before, this is our second summer series webinars, and we'll be having our next one sometime in late August. We'll make posts in Downing Daily, as well as make LinkedIn posts, and we'll spread the word again. And actually, our next webinar will be on August 28th regarding some future loss prevention innovation on how to protect your omni-channel. So that should be a pretty informative webinar. So please join us for that. Thank you, everyone, again, and we hope you had a good time.